Chapter 5 The Direction of Danger. The old astronomer's gentle face seemed pleased as he looked about the table, perhaps at having gained so absolutely the attention of all. Lucky looked about the table too. He caught the expressions that greeted Dr. Prevail's statement. There was contempt on Urchiel's broad features, a puzzled frown on Dr. Cardoma's face, a sulkier one on that of Mindy's. The others were held in various attitudes of curiosity and interest. One man caught Lucky's attention particularly. It was Hanley Cook, Dr. Prevail's second-in-command. He stared at his finger ends, and there was something like weary disgust about him. When he looked up, his expression had changed and settled into a cautious blankness. Nevertheless, Lucky thought, I'll have to talk to that man. And then his attention shifted back to Dr. Prevail. Dr. Prevail was saying, "The saboteur can't be one of us, of course. Dr. Mindy's tells me that he has investigated and is sure of that. Even without investigation, I'm sure that none of us is capable of such criminal action. Yet the saboteur must be intelligent, since the destruction is too purposeful, too exclusively directed against Project Light to be the result of chance or anything non-intelligent. Therefore—" Bigman interrupted excitedly. "Hey, you mean Mercury has native life? It's Mercurians doing this?" There was a buzz of confused comment and some laughter at which Bigman reddened. "Well," said the small Martian, "isn't that what Dr. Prevail's saying?" "Not quite," said Dr. Prevail gently. "There is no life of any kind native to Mercury," said one of the astronomers with emphasis. "That's one thing we're sure of." Lucky interposed. "How sure? Has anyone looked?" The astronomer who had spoken seemed taken aback. He said, "There have been exploring parties, certainly." Lucky smiled. He had met intelligent beings on Mars that no other man knew of. He discovered semi-intelligent beings on Venus where none had been thought to exist. He, for one, was not ready to admit that any planet lacked life, or even intelligence. He said, "How many exploring parties? How thorough was each exploration? Has every square mile been searched?" The astronomer did not answer. He looked away, raising his eyebrows as though to say, "What's the use?" Bigman grinned, his little face wrinkling into a caricature of gnomish good humor. Dr. Prevail said, "My dear Starr, explorations have uncovered nothing. While we grant that the possibility of Mercurian life is not completely excluded, the probability of its existence is very low. Suppose we assume that the only intelligent life in the galaxy is the human race. Certainly it's the only one we know of." With the Martian mind beings in his memory, Lucky did not agree with that, but he kept silent and let the old man continue. It was Urchiel, little by little having recovered his self-possession, who intervened. "What do you think you're getting at?" he asked, and it was characteristic of the man that he could not resist adding, "if anything." Dr. Prevail did not answer Urchiel directly. He looked from face to face, deliberately ignoring the congressional investigator. He said, "The point is, there are humans elsewhere than on Earth. There are humans in many star systems." A queer change came across the astronomer's face. It pinched in, grew white, and his nostrils flared, as though he were suddenly overpowered with anger. "For instance, there are humans on the planet of Sirius. What if they are the saboteurs?" "Why should they be?" asked Lucky at once. "Why not? They've committed aggression against Earth before." So much was true. Lucky Starr himself had helped, not long before, to repel a Syrian invasion flotilla that landed on Ganymede. But in that case they had left the solar system without pushing matters to a slowdown. Yet, on the other hand, it was a common thing for many Earthmen to blame Syrians for anything that went wrong. Dr. Prevail was saying with energy, "I've been there. I've been on to Sirius only 5 months ago. It took a great deal of red tape, because Sirius welcomes neither immigrants nor visitors, but it was a matter of an interstellar astronomical convention, and I managed to get a visa. I was determined to see for myself, and I must say I wasn't disappointed. The planets of Sirius are thinly populated and are extremely decentralized. They live in isolated individual family units, each with its own energy source and services. Each group has its own mechanical slave bots, which do the labor. The Syrian humans maintain themselves as a fighting aristocracy. Every one of them can handle a space cruiser. They'll never rest till they destroy the Earth." Bigman shifted restlessly in his seat. His hands on Mars. Let him try is all I say. They will when they're quite ready, said Dr. Prevail, and unless we do something quickly to meet the danger, they'll win. What have we got to oppose them? A population of billions, true, but how many can handle themselves in space? We are 6 billion rabbits and they are 1 million wolves. Earth is helpless and grows more helpless every year. We're fed by grain from Mars and yeast from Venus. We get our minerals from the asteroids, and we used to get them from Mercury too in the mines here we're working. Why, Star, if Project Light succeeds, Earth will be dependent on space stations for the manner in which it gets its very sunshine. Don't you see how vulnerable that makes us? A Syrian raiding party, by attacking the outposts of the system, could panic and starve Earth without ever having to fight us directly. And can we do anything to them in return? No matter how many of them we kill, the remaining Syrians are always self-contained and self-sufficient. Any one of them could continue the war. The old man was almost breathless with passion. There was no questioning his sincerity. It was as though he was getting something out of himself that had been stifling him. Lucky's eye wandered back to Dr. Prevail's second, Hanley cook. The man was resting his forehead on the bony knuckles of one large hand. His face was flushed, but to Lucky it did not seem like a flush of either anger or indignation. Rather, it seemed one of embarrassment. Scott Mindes spoke up skeptically. What would be the point, Dr. Prevail? If they're getting along on Sirius, why should they come to Earth? What do they get out of us? Even supposing they conquer Earth, they would only have to support us. Nonsense! Rapped out the senior astronomer. Why should they? They want Earth's resources, not Earth's population. Get that through your head. They'd let us starve. It'd be part of their policy. Oh, come on, said Gardoma. That's unbelievable. Not out of cruelty, said Dr. Prevail. Out of policy. They despise us. They consider us scarcely more than animals. The Syrians themselves are very race-conscious. Since Earthmen first colonized Sirius, they've been breeding themselves carefully until they are free of diseases and of various characteristics which they consider undesirable. They are of uniform appearance, while Earthmen are of all shapes, sizes, colors, varieties. The Syrians consider us inferior. That's why they won't let us immigrate to Sirius. They wouldn't let me attend the convention until the government pulled every string possible. Astronomers from all other systems are welcome, but not from Earth. Human life, any kind of human life, doesn't mean much to them anyway. They're machine-centered. I've watched them with their metal men. They're more considerate of a Syrian robot, almost, than of a Syrian man. They regard a robot as worth 100 men of Earth. They pamper those robots. They love them. Nothing's too good for them. Lucky murmured, Robots are expensive. They have to be treated carefully. Maybe so, said Dr. Prevail, but men who became accustomed to worrying about the needs of machines become callous about the needs of men. Lucky Starr leaned forward, elbows on the table, dark eyes serious in the smooth vertical lines of his handsome, still subtly boyish face, set gravely. He said, Dr. Prevail, if the Syrians are race-conscious and are breeding themselves into uniformity, they'll defeat themselves in the long run. It is variety in the human race that brings about progress. It is Earth and not Sirius that is the forefront of scientific research. Earthmen settled Sirius in the first place, and it is we, not our Syrian cousins, who are advancing in new directions every year. Even the posturonic robots you mentioned were invented and developed on Earth by Earthmen. Yes, said the astronomer, but Earthmen don't make use of the robot. It would upset our economy, and we place the comfort and security of today above the safety of tomorrow. We use our scientific advance to make ourselves weaker. Sirius uses it to make itself stronger. That's the difference, and that's the danger. Dr. Prevail threw himself back in his chair, looking grim. The mechanical tray carrier cleared the table. Lucky pointed at it. That's a sort of robot, if you like, he said. The mechanical tray carrier went quietly about his task. It was a flat-surfaced thing, moving smoothly on a diamagnetic field, so that its gently curved base never actually touched the floor. Its limber tentacles removed dishes with careful delicacy, placing some on its upper surface, others within a cabinet in its side. That's a simple automation, started Dr. Prevail. It has no posturonic brain. It cannot adapt itself to any change in its task. Well then, Sluggy, are you saying that the Syrians are sabotaging Project Light? Yes, I am. Why should they? Dr. Prevail shrugged. Perhaps it's just part of a larger plan. I don't know what trouble there is elsewhere in the solar system. They may be the first random probings prepared for ultimate invasion and conquest. Project Light in itself means nothing. The Syrian danger everything. I wish you could rouse the Council of Science and the government and the people to that truth. Hanley Cook coughed, then spoke for the first time. The Syrians are, human like the rest of us. If they're on the planet, where are they? Dr. Vale said coldly, "That's for an exploring expedition to find out. A well-prepared, well-equipped expedition." "Wait a minute," said Mindes, his eyes glinting with excitement. "I've been out on the Sunside, and I'll swear—" "A well-prepared, well-equipped expedition," repeated the old astronomer firmly. "Your unmanned flights mean nothing, Mindes." The engineer stuttered a moment, and then slumped into an embarrassed silence. Lucky said suddenly, "You seem to be unhappy about this, Teal. What is your opinion of Dr. Vale's view?" The investigator lifted his eyes and met those of Lucky for a long moment in hatred and open defiance. It was obvious he had not forgotten and would not forget the earlier exchange at this table. He said, "I'm keeping my opinion to myself, but I'll say this. I'm not fooled by anything that's going on here tonight." His mouth clamped shut, and Lucky, having waited a moment for further remarks, turned to Prevail and said, "I wonder if we do need a complete expedition, sir. If we suppose that the Syrians are here on Mercury, perhaps we can deduce where they might be." "Go ahead, Lucky," cried Bigman at once. "Show 'em how." Dr. Prevail said, "How do you mean?" "Well, what would be best for the Syrians? If they've been sabotaging Project Light at frequent intervals over a period of months, it would be most convenient for them to have a base near the project. Yet at the same time, the base must not be easily detected. They've certainly been successful in the second requirement anyway. Now where could such a handy, but secret, base be? Let's divide Mercury up into two parts, sun side and dark side. It seems to me they'd be foolish to set up a base on the sun side. Too hot, too much radiation, too inhospitable." Cook grunted. "No more inhospitable than the dark side." "No, no," said Lucky at once. "You're wrong there. The sun side presents an environment which is quite unusual. Humans aren't accustomed to it at all. The dark side is something very familiar. It is simply ground which is exposed to space, and the conditions of space are very familiar. The dark side is cold, but no colder than space. It is dark and airless, but no darker than any portion of space not in direct sunlight, and certainly no more airless. Men have learned to live comfortably in space, and they can live on the dark side." "Go on," said Dr. Prevail, his old eyes gleaming with interest. "Go on, Mr. Starr." "But establishing a base that would serve over a period of months is not a simple thing. They must have a ship or ships to get back to Syria some day. If they are to be picked up by a ship from outside, they must still have ample stores of food and water, as well as an energy source. All this takes up room, and yet they must be certain they will not be detected. It leaves only one place which they may be." "Where, Lucky?" said Bigman, nearly jumping up and down in his eagerness. He, at least, had no doubts that whatever Lucky said was so. "Where?" "Well," said Lucky, "when I first arrived here, Dr. Mindes made mention of mines on Mercury which had failed. Just a few months ago, Dr. Prevail spoke of mines on Mercury which were once working. From that I gathered there must be empty mine shafts and corridors on the planet, and they must be either here or at the South Pole, since the polar regions are the only places where the temperature extremes are not too great. Am I right?" Cook faltered. "Yes, there are mines here, but before the observatory was established the dome was a mining center, and we're sitting on top of a large empty hole in Mercury. If the Syrians are successfully hiding a large base, where else would it be? There is the direction of danger." A murmur of appreciation was passed round the table, but it was shattered abruptly by Yurtiel's guttural tones. "Oh, very pretty," he said. "But what does it all come to? What are you going to do about it?" "Bigman and I," said Lucky, "intend to enter the mines just as soon as we can get ready. If there's anything there, we'll find it."